Hello, everybody, and welcome to Circuit of the Americas. Great to have all of you with us here as we are ready to kick off the racing part of the season for the Pirelli GT4 America Championship. Cars making their way out of the pre-grid into pit lane to form up for a 1-hour Sprint X format event. We are really happy to be able to bring this to you here. The conditions at the track, as you can see, there was some rain earlier this morning. It has stopped. There's been a little misting on occasion, but the track itself pretty raceable, fairly dry. The key here, temperatures very cold in the low 50s at this stage. And as you can see, most of the field is already staged up. Qualifying happening earlier this morning. It was a great shootout, and it produced a great grid for this one. On the pole, the NOLA Sport Porsche Cayman 718 CSMR GT4. Matt Travis doing a superb job in his qualifying run, putting that car on the inside of the front row, but alongside, stepping up from the TCR ranks from last year, Jarrett Andretti, who's teamed with Carl Thompson in the Andretti Autosport. That is the Window World McLaren as he steps up to the GT4 ranks. And, of course, Carl Thompson with Compass Racing, very familiar with McLaren machinery, running as the co-driver. I'm Greg Creamer, Calvin Fish alongside Ryan Marine down in the pits as we take a look at some of the rest of the field here. Here's the car that will start third from the Racers group. And Cal, was a fascinating qualifying session. And one of the big stories was the overall pole car, yes, was a Pro-Am car, but the next group of cars, second, third, fourth, and fifth, all AM category machines, showing that some of those drivers in those cars, and again, it was supposed to be the AM driver that was starting and qualifying those cars, put together some great runs.
Yeah, it's a real melting pot. Great to get the championship started, Greg. As you said, continuing with the Sprint X format, 60 minutes of racing, mandatory pit stop where a driver change has to take place sometime between the 25 and 35-minute mark. So the car has forbidden on pit lane between those two time factors there. And there's a minimum of an 81-second time they have to spend on pit lane, including the service and the driver change. So lots to consider, lots of fascinating new combinations, 8 different manufacturers represented on the grid. This will be great.
Field of 30-plus cars getting ready to go. And talking about those stops, no refueling. Have to change drivers. If you want, you can do tires.
You can, but that actually extends that minimum pit stop time. So I'm not sure we're going to see much of that going on today. There's a tire allocation that has to be factored in into doing that. And I think with these cool conditions, Greg, putting on cold tires in the middle of this race is probably not the way to go. They also have the consideration of a joker tire if the tire is damaged, flat spotted or whatever. So lots to consider, and for the teams, this is a learning curve as well.
See there, Harry Gottsacker, of course, had a tremendous run in GTS overall combined last year, second in the overall championship, running with ST Racing here. This is a big story. The Crookspeed team up from the touring cars to a full season of GT4 competition, and with Anthony Durazzi and another driver of note, Elevin Goulart. Here, the number 24, this is the Ginetta from Ian Lacey G3 Racing with Drew Stavely and Frank Gannett. Campaigning those cars. They'll be running Mustangs in the sprint version, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But again, a very deep field. There's Pro-Am and there's AM. That's the national championship for the Sprint X. There are 2 regional series. There's a GT4 East and West, which run in conjunction with the national. They also have Pro-Am and AM category cars. So this is the lone race where the national championship for Sprint X will be joined by both the Eastern and Western regional series. Rest of the year, it will either be one or the other in terms of the regional series. So it's interesting to get it all kicked off here, and what it has done, it has brought the cream of the crop from the 2 regional series to join the national competition. And you take a look at that, 3rd and 4th on the grid. One's a Western AM team in the 3rd spot. That's the TRG Racers Group entry of Woods and Bellamo, and 4th an Eastern AM team. It says a lot about the quality of driving in this field.
It really does. Every field is certainly stacked, Greg. There's some favorites that we can get to as this race unfolds. But again, opening round, damp, wet conditions this morning. So that threw a little bit of a curveball. All of the teams, and certainly the NOLA Sport team, what a performance they put together in terms of grabbing that pole for race 1, and a big performance for race 2, which we'll get to a little bit later in the show.
Here's the TRG Pastime LaSalle Solutions machine here, and Jim Rappaport, Dr. Jim Rappaport, joined by Derek DeBoer. Here's Samantha Tan in her ST Racing entry. Great to have that team back. As we said, we've seen in this off season, we've seen lots of information. This program with the Palmers, coming over to run. Lots of new teams joining the championship. This is a Kelly Moss run program. Lots of new teams coming over. Lots of existing teams with new drivers, new driver pairings. But in the end, great entry.
It is, and it's nice to come into a race not knowing who the favorites are. There'll be some surprises. There'll be some people who you think should be at the sharp end, struggling a little bit to get their programs together. Maybe they got their cars late or whatever. There's Porsche Cayman, as some of the teams literally got their cars this week. So getting the bugs ironed out, even though it's a great piece and not hearing too many troubles with that car, but certainly getting the ideal setup underneath you. Maybe some of the teams will need another event or two to fine-tune that.
I think we just saw Sarah Cattaneo in that Reardon Racing, or the Auto Technique entry that, Reardon Racing entry. She's running with Owen Trinkler. She hasn't raced in 18 months, got married in the off-season, but she hasn't raced in a while, and that shouldn't be an issue, except the Audi is a very different platform from what she raced previously. And in these very cold conditions, she's just taking a little time to get acclimated. She will, there's no question of that. But just interesting little things unfolding like that. And another shout out I want to give, we just saw a shot near the back of the field, that very dynamic looking green sort of plaid graphic scheme on the car. BGB Motorsports Group, which has had such success in other series over the years, to have them running in this championship now with Thomas Collingwood and team owner John Tisi, that's fantastic.
It is. John's a great competitor both on and off the racetrack, so I know he's looking forward to be back in competition both from his team standpoint and him behind the wheel. So he'll jump in second after Thomas has his opening stint here.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And again, 60 minutes of competition, and that mandatory pit stop in the middle, straight up Sprint X competition, much like it was last year for the then GTS category, now the Pirelli GT4 America Championship. And it's exciting, the developments that are unfolding, and just the way that they've structured the various championships for this category this year, both globally as well as here in the United States, I think meeting with a fair amount of approval. And there were those teams that wanted to have a sprint only, where it's one driver doing the old historic 50 minutes. Well, there's a national championship for that starts in a week. So they've really tried to look after everybody, and obviously the turnout of teams tells you they're clearly swinging at some good pitches here.
They do, and you know, with the GT4 platform, it's really just resonated now. It's got its legs, it's got momentum. More teams are enticed to be here, and when you see 8 manufacturers on the grid like this, certainly Porsche and BMW have their fair share, but there's other manufacturers there with some great entries. It's anybody's game.
Well, and one of the things that fascinates me about the GT4 category, GT3 is just impressive. It's wicked fast, but the cars have so much aero built into them that sometimes when you're behind somebody, you tend to lose the nose a little bit, and it takes a little bit. GT4, it's a serious program, great power in those cars. Not quite as much aero. I don't know, what's the word you want to say, sensitivity?
Yeah, so, raceability. I mean, they can just be in close quarters, and the air is not taken away, where it just really makes the car impossible to drive and follow closely and be close enough to make the passing. So expect lots of moves here. The pit stop will certainly, some people get it right, some people get it wrong. If you're too quick, you'll get dinged and have to do a drive-through. So lots to factor in here. Knock the rust off for the teams. They'll be thinking about it a lot during the off-season, but until you get in the heat of the battle, you never know how it's going to go.
That's about to start. We can't wait for that, obviously, and get this one going here. Great. If you joined us a little bit earlier, one of the nice developments is for the GT4 and GT3 classes, we are now streaming live coverage of qualifying, and it was a fascinating qualifying session. And we should see that play out as this race unfolds, and is really looking forward to this championship, just waiting for that command to get things going. This track long enough that they would just do one pace lap, and then we will get underway and go racing and get this one started here. Double headers, as always. That's been the format over the years, and that's exactly how it plays out. So it's going to be a good weekend of competition across all of the classes. And there's the Honda Pace car staging up and getting ready to lead this field out.
Big difference from last year is the fact that the grid for race 2 is no longer set by the fastest lap. We had a split qualifying session where driver number 1, it should be the lower graded driver in a Pro-Am lineup, will have qualified and now be starting the race we're looking at right now. And then for race 2, there was a separate qualifying segment where the second driver took part and they lays down the grid for tomorrow. So fastest lap doesn't really mean anything in terms of grid position for tomorrow any longer in GT4 or GT3 competition.
Right. It was always fascinating to see the strategy for somebody that was struggling in the race and to find a gap, but then, you know, if I can get a fast lap, I can start up. But if you had a problem early and you were out of that first race before you got any kind of a fast lap, you were really in trouble for race 2 as well, and that was unfair.
It was, particularly in the big picture of a championship. It was a game changer. If you were suddenly in the thick of a championship battle, someone turns you around in the first corner and you have damage, well, you get 0 points, which is the minimum 50% it was last year, 75% of the race laps this year to score points. So you got 0 points, and you had no lap on the board for your grid for tomorrow, and you're starting at the back for race 2. So I felt that was too much of a hit to take in terms of a championship contender. I like the new rule. I like the new format.
I do as well. And you can see they've given the signal to start engines. So we are about ready to go here. And I just want to point out, Jared Andretti, who qualified outside of the front row for this one, doesn't have a ton of experience in road racing. He, you know, did the TCR category last year, but prior to that, most of his racing has been sprint-style racing and the like. Clearly, he is a quick study, and to qualify at this category outside of the front row, that's impressive.
It really is, and there's a great group there. Robin Pemberton is on their pit box, has a lot of NASCAR experience, has a lot of racing experience, a lot of racing savvy. Carl Thompson's brought some of the Compass engineering crew involved with Andretti Autosport, but it's essentially an Andretti Autosport entry, and it's great to have them on the World Challenge grid as well.
As you can see, the field now making its way out. This is a nice wide pit lane. You've got a working lane, a slow lane, and a fast lane. It's classic style of the modern Formula One circuit, and it plays well for us to be able to get this grid out and on the way. Again, looking for one formation lap, and it's an important one because it's been a while since these guys qualified. When they qualified, it was essentially wet.
They're on wet tires, so time to get those tires scrubbed in as best you can at these relatively low speeds behind the safety car. Some moments earlier in the touring car race where some drivers ran afoul of the slick conditions on this pace lap, so hopefully everyone can keep it clean.
And it's doubly important right now. I mean, the track, the groove is essentially fairly dry. We haven't had any real moisture, but you get offline, you can still see dampness, and it's really crucial right now, isn't it? On this formation lap, you're exploring for where do I have grip, because you're going to have to go offline to make a pass here and there, and you need to know what you've got for grip.
You certainly do. You got to be careful though, because the tire temps, it's very cold out there. Just sticking my head out the booth just for a few moments there. It's really damp and chilly still. 50-degree ambient, very cold track temperature as well that goes alongside that. So they have to be careful. They've got to try and gradually build the tire pressures up on these Pirelli P0 slick tires, get that tire temperature into the sweet spot, and start to find the grip. So you're probing, you're looking around, but you're really not going to get much of a read in this reconnaissance lap essentially on these cold tires.
This is the exit of turn 11, leads onto the longest straight here. If you're not familiar with this layout, 20 turns, 3.4 miles essentially. And turn 11 to 12, by far the longest straight, and it's a good one. Sort of climbs and drops with a little bend in it, but it is absolutely a flat-out blast into one of the tightest turns and one of the key overtaking areas on the track, coming into it right now in turn 12.
Yes, it is, and particularly these cars with the ABS, you'll see people dive for that apex trying to make the move. And then the key is the track limits coming off. You see a lot of drivers try to defend and maintain that position, whether it's for their lead or just a position deeper into the field. They'll just open up their hands and kind of run out wide there if they're under attack. Like you see a car there just a little bit wide there. I think it may be Radisic. It's a tough track to police in terms of the track limits. They're giving the drivers the option of using the red and white curves, but the green area, as you can see it right there, that is definitely out of bounds on the exit of many of these corners.
Working through the stadium section, this track has 3 different sectors, and each sector has a very different feel to it. And this would be the stadium section, sort of patterned after the Hockenheim stadium section, now into the triple right-hander, patterned after the Istanbul triple left at that great circuit. The S's, the first part, they're designed to, one side's designed sort of to mimic the S's at Suzuka, another side, the great S's sequence at Brands Hatch. Pace car pulls off. That's to stage up just in case there's an incident on the straight. Field now under the control of Matt Travis in that NOLA Sport. Porsche 718 came as CSMR GT4. As we head down in, Andretti staying on his shoulder, onto the front straight. The start line down farther from the finish and timing line. He's just past the pylon. Watch for that. Oh, some of the field lagging just a little bit. That's not good. They're going to get trapped. Now we are green. We are racing. Pirelli GT4 America for 2019 is underway. And the charge up into the extremely wide. Turn 1 begins. And Andretti trying to sweep the outside, Cal.
Yeah, nearly some contact there with our pole sitter Travis on the inside. Who's going to get the... Oh, there's drama in the middle of the pack.
One of them is the Bolt Lighting entry of Brynjolfsson, but I think it was 2 separate incidents. Somebody got into the back. That's the white 21 Flying Lizard Porsche. Got turned, and I don't think it was Brynjolfsson that got him. I think there were 2 separate incidents.
Michael Dinan there had a nice qualifying run. Now the car's damaged. He just goes off a right. I think the right front is down on that Ginetta.
Yep, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah,
it's broken suspension.
Oh.
27 machine.
Anthony Girazzi. That's the Krug Speed car. They've done such a nice job.
It's a shame, not the way to start your championship year. Radicic is around in the S's. Should lose contact there.
Again, really cold temperatures. And as always, an exciting first lap here.
Travis settling in nicely. It was a brilliant performance in the wettest of the conditions for the both sessions in GT4 qualifying by Matt Travis, but what a job by Nola Sport. They grab the pole here and they sweep the front row for the race tomorrow, race 2. Jarrett Andretti, nice opening lap. He went for it on the opening lap. They're up into turn 1 but couldn't make it stick. There you see Travis dancing around on the brakes there. Andretti in that McLaren looking very menacing. Oh, Travis really sideways coming off at turn 12.
Pushing hard early. There's Vesko Kozarov in the rear. Audi sitting in the 3rd spot.
Watch for him. He's one of the savviest racers in this group. Lots of experience. Great with car setup, and he'll be a factor here today, I believe.
Absolutely. The 67. That is Woods. That is the TRG. It's the Racers Group entry of Kevin Woods. Sitting in the 3rd spot. 4th is Christian Shimshak in the orange Mercedes. The Fuji Murillo Racing entry.
Yeah, Woods did a really nice job in qualifying. TRG always puts out a great car. Kevin Buckler and his group. He qualified 3rd. Woods did. Settling in now to a top 4 position early in the going.
And the red and black Mercedes that sits 6th right now is another car I think to keep your eyes on in this one. Reinhold Renger, who's starting that car. We were talking about it earlier. He's a bronze by virtue of his age.
Right.
He is a gun in Europe in GT racing and is very familiar with this Mercedes platform. Let's have another look at the start, Cal.
A lot of stragglers at the back on that formation lap. The tail end of the field got separated. I'm not sure that's what created the issue once we got to turn 1 and middle of the pack. Then you see them all burst out. You're allowed to go racing. As soon as you see the green on the initial start, you don't have to wait for the stripes. You can go for it. Watch for Jared Andretti. Sweeps in wide. 2 front row cars get very tight. Then there's contact right there. The Krug Speed car gets into the inside of Brynjolfsson and turns him around, and just drama ensues around them. A little bit of chaos there. Preston Calvert just scraping through with the Panos, maybe touching the left rear corner.
And it looked to me that when the 2 cars came together, that forced Radicic wide, and that's what collected the 21 Lizard Porsche. So very much just a reactive incident for that second group out there. Meanwhile,
Fresh now putting the pressure on Woods.
Yes,
bright orange Mercedes AMG number 34, as you can see, tails away, heading down that long back stretch.
Then it's Miller in the number 28 ST Racing entry that he is sharing with Harry Gottsapper.
Oh, Travis again. He's struggling with his braking there, and at turn 12, really dancing around. I think Andretti's just trying to figure out what he's doing. A couple of times he thought, should I go for it or not? As one of the car hits pit lane, one of the classic BMWs, number 92.
Chris Omacht behind the wheel. He was probably caught up in that Shamazel up at turn 1, taking a look inside there at the suspension of that left front corner. Well, now Travis finally has opened up, from his perspective, a little margin over Andretti.
Car is hooked up. He's just really struggling under braking, and there you see menacing. It's Vesko Kozarov in that black and red Audi just cutting through the screen. There you see him with track limits. That's fine. You had 2 wheels up on that red and white curb, and that's what you need to have. Can't have all 4 out of bounds.
Speaking of menacing, look at Renger now working over Fasnacht in the for that top 5 position. The orange Mercedes and the black and red Mercedes just behind these 4. There they are. That is a good little scrap that's unfolding as well.
Massive elevation change up into turn 1. It means you can brake incredibly late. Almost as you're turning in, you're on the brakes there.
133 feet.
It's amazing. It just plunge down the other side. A piece of real estate in the motor racing world, that is.
Good look here, Kevin Woods. Really giving this a run.
He's really impressive, done a nice job here this weekend. Kevin Buckler was singing his praises in their pre-race press release. To good effect, I think.
Yeah, he's got pace. There's no question of that.
With Porsche, McLaren, Audi, Porsche, Mercedes, AMG. 8 brands represented in the GT4 field this year. Things settling in now. They should have tire temps, should have the pressures up. Cars should start to feel normal. We head down into that turn 12 braking zone again. Curious to see how Travis deals with it this time. I know he was a little bit under pressure with Andretti from behind, but there you see your car just sort of like wiggling around there on the threshold, braking into the ABS probably a little bit. Andretti's car looks super comfortable. Vesko Kozrov is not letting these leaders get away.
As you said, he's so savvy. He knows exactly where he wants to be. He's got this, as they all do, any of the top teams, they have a strategy that here's how, if things go right, here's how we want to play this. But then you've got to have the ability to adapt when things change up just a little bit. That car really for Travis now looks like it's really starting to settle in.
Yeah, all of these teams that have taken delivery of this new Cayman have been very impressed. Just in the world that we're in now, Greg, I think these new cars that the manufacturers are delivering at such a higher level in terms of just literally turnkey. You can have it delivered at the racetrack and just give it a quick look over and go out and test it. That's what a lot of the teams were actually doing here last weekend, including Flying Lizard, who were part of this championship as well.
The major change from what we understand from that Cayman is, everything that the older car was doing right, they kept, as you would. It's primarily a little tweaking they've done to that power plant in the back of that car. It just made it a lot more responsive. Certainly helps with getting off corners, etc. That makes a big, big difference. And it's playing out, obviously, right now. Here's Sean Quinlan, battle for 12th. That is the number 19 entry.
Calvert looking at the inside in that red, white, and blue. Stripe Panos Avizano there in the middle of the screen.
That's a good pairing this year, Calvin Prestert, with obviously the guy Matt Keegan, who proved to be so quick as a teammate last year with Ian James.
Yeah, he won a couple of Sprint X rounds with Ian, and it's a great format. Ian taking more of a management role as well as competing in the sprint rounds of the championship this year. He'll be in action at St. Petersburg in literally 7 days' time. Brynjolfsson covered nicely from that early tap and spin. Up front now, Andretti super close once again.
Ooh, speaking of close, you see Fasnacht at the back of Woods.
Yeah, that bright orange Mercedes on the attack on the TRG entry in front of him. Andretti's car looks super under control though. Really nice balance, not sliding around, not having to use as much road as Travis is, yet maintaining the pace.
When you see that unfolding, that's generally a sign that that car is really handling, which means probably a little easier on its tires. And with the milling they've done to this track, it's abrasive more so than it has been in the past. That's going to be a factor.
For sure. That's ideal. I mean, to be able to maintain pace with the leader and not be sliding around, not using the car up as much. Travis was brilliant in the wet conditions here this morning and is doing a good job of hanging on to this lead, even though he does seem to be having some kind of an issue with the brakes on the car. This battle's not going away. Woods leads Fasnacht in at the brake zone. Right behind them is Renger. Michael Chase is going to be taking over the reins of that Mercedes there, sitting in the 6th position, 3rd car on the screen right now. Right there, that black and red menacing look. Menacing pace as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Then another good battle behind them, starting for the 7th spot right now. You've got the number 28 SD Racing entry of Miller. John Miller, chased by the Epic Racing number 3 of James Clay. And it's interesting, he's racing, that Epic team is one that James's Bimmerworld team has gone head-to-head with in a lot of racing over the years. And he and Randy Mueller decided to team up. They tried it last year, it worked well, and they decided to do the program this year, and that's good stuff too. Again, that's now, it's coming up with some lap traffic. That was the 32. Kelly Ross entry of Stuart Briscoe.
Yep.
Well, that is true, though, the way that the 47 of Travis, he just was a few feet off of that curb as he starts his braking, and then suddenly just kick. I wonder if he's just swinging out to try and open the radius.
It's weird. It's like he's just hanging on the brakes a long time rather than just releasing the brakes and letting them roll through apex. He's just really just remaining that brake pedal, and the car does not look comfortable. It's like he needs to just roll off the brake pressure a little bit and let the car take its head into the corner.
Kozerov
to criticize he's leading.
Yeah, exactly. And Kozerov is on the wheel right now. You can see he's trying to, now he's working some different lines, trying to figure out a way through. He's going to try and get, this is so difficult. And he paid the price. And I think if he hadn't done that, he would have tapped Andretti. So,
nice recovery, quick recovery, but didn't expect Vesco to go for it right there. He literally, you know, he'd been seeing what Jarrett was doing, but when you make that move, you really need to ensure first and foremost that the competitor ahead of you knows you're there, because otherwise you're just going to shut the door. I think Vesco got caught in no man's land there as he's just trying to recover here and defend a little bit on Fastener, who looks now to the inside. Stuffs the nose down on that Mercedes, trying not to make contact. Good, clean, hard racing there between the competitors. Vesco swings out right, trying to get back into a rhythm. He's a cool cat, but even someone like he'll be a bit flustered by that move. Let's take another look at it.
I almost wonder if he didn't think, was surprised at how strong the run was he got through those 3 rights, because he just suddenly was all over the backup, and I wonder if he, I don't want to give this run up here.
Yeah, well, he got close to him. It's like, okay, well, let me think about it. He knows this racetrack very well in terms of where the passing opportunities are, and then I think he got to a point, well, does Jarrett know that I'm going to be going for it? And I think in that split second, suddenly he had to change his mind. He get weight on the front of the car right as the rear end is getting loaded, and just looped it around.
Here's a look here.
Here's a look at it. Just gets a big run. Doors open, but you see Jarrett's now coming into the corner. He's right on apex. There's a little bump there. Jarrett would have felt that, but it was going to be a bigger moment if Vesco didn't give it up.
She said that was a pretty smart recovery. But now that gives Travis and Andretti a fair amount of room up at the front. And Travis now looks to be easing away just a little bit from Andretti.
And this is ideal. He just needs to manage these tires, because we believe most of these teams will elect to go with the same set of Pirelli P0s for the full 60 minutes. So what you don't want to do is like, oh, look at me, I'm the hero, I'm leading the race. We'll burn down the tires and give your teammate nothing to defend with. So you need to think about that factor too in terms of it's being a long race. Yes, you may only have 25 to 35 minutes in your stint, but the other driver has to bring it home.
Yeah, you've got responsibilities when you're the starting driver for sure.
Again, theoretically, this should be the lower graded driver who qualified and starts this race. So typically, if you think about, okay, if driver A, the first driver, is a little bit slower than driver B, when that pit stop window opens, you want to get your faster driver in as soon as possible. So I think once we get to that 25 minutes into this race, you can see by the clock another 10 minutes or so to go before that pit stop window opens. You may see a lot of activity on pit road immediately.
It's interesting that for this car, the 91 entry, that it was Kozerov nominated to start over Jeff Burton. Kozerov, a tremendous amount of experience. Burton, not quite so much. He's a very solid driver, of course.
Kozerov may stay in longer.
That's exactly, I was just getting to this. You would extend that out. And there's this little battle that continues to be good. Fosnot now has been able to get around Woods. He's taken that 4th spot. And now Renger starts to work over the TRG Porsche.
Mercedes looked really good, really compliant, able to eat up a lot of those curbs, which basically shortens the racetrack and enables you to run a much wider radius through the corner by doing so. You're not having to go to the peak, the high point of the apex. You can just cut underneath it if it's compliant enough to go over the bumps and the curves without unsettling the tire.
We've seen that over the past few years as a hallmark of the Mercedes, whether it's GT4 or GT3, is it can hammer curbs. It doesn't seem to upset the platform much.
It doesn't, and that's hard to achieve when you have something that's compliant and able to do that over the bump. Sometimes it's not crisp in change of direction. When you want the car to act quickly, you don't want it to be lazy. You don't want it to be soft and have to wait for it to set. But Mercedes-AMG have done a great job with their GT4 and GT3 platforms to create a really comfortable car. It inspires confidence, particularly for the AM drivers. That is exactly what you're looking for. A pro can drive a car that's a little bit more edgy, a little bit more, you know, on the verge of biting you, but an AM wants a car that's really comfortable and compliant.
This is a good scrap here for this 4th spot. You can see Kozarov has been able to take a little bit of some breathing room back off of this battle here. There he is, just at the bottom of the screen. And these three are just going at it right now as much as you can at this stage early in a race, and when you're going to have to turn the car over to somebody else.
Kozarov has the fastest lap of the race at a 2:18.5 compared to Travis, who leads at 2:18.7, and Andretti at a 2:18.6. Next batch of cars in the mid 2:19 range. So the three front runners have about a good second margin in pace right now per lap for the rest of the field.
Just love the different sectors of this track. This is what we were talking about, this first sequence of S's. Very much patterned after Silverstone's S's, and then you get into this section, which is Suzuka S's. I mean, it's just fabulous where Herman Tilke took his inspiration from for this track. Here's this great little scrap. Kozarov.
He's got his mindset. He's going to try and chase down these leaders here. Last lap was second quicker than Travis, so he's cutting back into that lead after that little mishap and quick spin.
And Kozarov with that 3rd spot, Fosnot in 4th, Woods 5th, Renger 6th. Then there is the blue BMW, the epic Bimmer World entry of James Clay, chased hard now by Drew Stavely in the Ian Lacey Racing G3 Ginetta. Looks like they've been able to drop Miller just a little bit in the 28 ST Racing entry. He must have had some sort of an issue because Miller was in front of those two cars. I'll tell you, Woods has not given up, even though Fosnot got through.
He's done a really nice job. Really impressed with him this week.
Ooh, look at that, trying to get down the inside. Yeah, he's a great story. I mean, he basically, his experience is Pirelli Trophy West, which is a regional GT competition featuring the GT4 cars. So he's got experience in this car.
10 wins, that'll breed confidence.
Exactly, in the Diamond class, which is the top level.
Wins in a season.
I mean, basically in this car, that was the idea. They are two customers of the Racers Group, TRG, in the Pirelli Trophy West Series. The second driver, Chris Balomo, is going to get in the car, was the champ in the silver class with 9 wins, so he was slacking.
Yeah.
It's impressive stuff what they put together. Way down to the inside.
Yeah.
Ooh, lockup.
Lockup by Fosnot, which is, he was more keeping the car. Normally you get lockup when you're turning in. He kept it pretty straight. The bodywork, I think, from the earlier incident just got flipped up there as Matt ran wide. Loses a couple of positions really quickly. That's a bit bizarre. I didn't expect him to be the one who was locking up.
No, not at all. But, you know, the interesting thing of that corner, you talked about the climb, but right before you turn to the apex, it flattens out for a minute. And if you get in a little too hot and you don't modulate the braking appropriately, that can happen, even with ABS, as you said many times. It's not perfect at all.
That's right. Take another look at it. Yeah, I think you're right. Right at the crest of the hill, tires just got a little bit light, momentary log up. Then the ABS would have kicked in, maybe made it feel a little bit numb. He's trying to recover, and Renger was through immediately in the other Mercedes AMG machine. So Wood's having a great battle here.
This is superb, yeah, for the 4th spot.
Grew up watching his dad run drag races when Kevin was just 10 years old. And it's a bit of a drag strip he's on right now, coming between turn 11 and 12.
Looks like this battle behind here, that's James Clay. He's now starting to close that up just a little bit. He's bringing Drew Stavely with him.
What a great season Drew Stavely had last year. So much success with this Ginetta. And as you mentioned, they got Mustang GT4 cars in their camp as well for the sprint rounds of the championship. Ian Lacey does such a great job for this G3 team. Frank Gannett, Jenny, his wife, is competing in the TCA class once again this year.
Yeah, Drew, I think, was at Limerick as an overall win as an AM in the GTS category. He's definitely a driver to keep an eye on here. He's having a good run with James Clay. I think
he's working him over big time.
His pace is pushing James faster, which is having them reel in that 4th place battle, Fosnot, Woods, and Renger.
James having to get real defensive here. Stavely's got a little bit more pace at this stage of the game, but James is a wily veteran. He's not going to give it up easily, and he's had to withstand this sort of pressure many times in his racing career.
Well, that Ginetta is an interesting little car. It runs a little V6 Ford engine in it. So in a straight line, it's not always the fastest thing, but the minute it needs to turn, it is about as nimble and agile as it gets.
It's a fun car to drive.
Yes, absolutely. Which means oftentimes near the end of the race, it's got a better set of tires on it too. So that plays out.
Probably another lap and a half, and these guys can start to hit pit lane, getting pretty close within 3 minutes of that pit stop window opening.
There's Kozaroff, and he has taken that margin. It was pretty big, obviously, and he has trimmed it down to Andretti now to under 3 seconds. Meanwhile, Travis is over 4 seconds clear. He is just really throwing down some laps now.
Yeah, Andretti must have had a problem on that last lap because he was over a couple of seconds slower than Travis, our leader, and that has allowed, obviously, Kozaroff to inch ever closer for that battle for the 2nd position right now, which we're looking at. Travis had a great 2018 season, putting some great runs in the touring car class. It's a big jump up, and what a way to do it. He and his teammate grabbing both poles for this weekend's races. Also testament to the team. Swept the front row for the race tomorrow with the sister car. Some of what we thought was maybe down at the wet conditions, well, here in which is basically, even though it doesn't look dry, it's dry lap times we're seeing. They've got the pace in the dry as well, so great debut with that new Cayman.
And I think one of the impressive things, you think about Matt Travis here, he's only, I mean, literally, started racing anything 4 years ago. So, but he's got Jason Hart, who is a real long-time part of this NOLA Sport program, as a great coach, and they really have just dialed in beautifully here.
See, the racetrack has some weird looks to it. That's where that milling, as you mentioned earlier, Greg, has taken place. Over the last 2 or 3 off seasons, each time we came back, we saw bigger and bigger bumps, and certainly the Formula One teams that will be here later in the year for the US Grand Prix, their cars do not like any sort of increase in the bumps, and having them to unsettle their race cars and raise their ride height. So the organizers here have done a brilliant job in the off season of what they call milling, grinding down the bigger bumps, and that's where you see this difference of appearance right there. You can see some coming down there, right at the compression there as you come down the hill towards turn 11.
Yeah, that Vest Energy Group machine out front. Here's Andretti. Here's Kozaroff and the Reardon Racing machine. And there you can see pretty sizable margin. It looks like Fosnot has just dropped off just a little bit. I wonder if he hurt that tire.
Yes, could have got a flat spot, and they may elect to change that. They can certainly do that within the pit stop. Maybe he's fighting that a little bit. It wasn't a long time. Normally you see it locked up for a lot longer if that is in fact the issue, but he's definitely dropped off the pace a little bit. Maybe just lost the balance in the race car. And again, you've got to think about the big picture, because if there is a caution or a safety car get put out there, you want to have enough tire left for any kind of reset.
Watching the back of the screen, yep, Stavely, look at that move. Down underneath, it takes that 7th spot away from James Clay. I saw they were close.
I'll be curious to see if he can catch fast now before the pit stops start to happen. So we're underneath. Pit stops can now happen and be your mandatory time. So let's see if there's any early takers here. You see a pit window open. Remains open for 10 more minutes. Well, 9 1/4 basically from this point forward. You don't have to have all your service completed and be out of pit lane, but you have to have hit pit lane between now, as we see
Ringer
dive in. Parker Chase going to be seeing some early action.
Travis is, no.
It's Clay.
Yeah, from the front. Yeah, Travis is in. There he is. So you see the Vess Energy Group in the car. Mike Vess, another of the drivers that runs with this team frequently. Travis turning over to Jason Hart.
81 seconds is the total pit stop time. So from entering the pit lane to exiting, including this driver change, you must not be faster than 81 seconds. So typically that should be an easy driver change time, and then they're just looking at the stopwatch as to when to release the car.
And that's from about, as you turn into the pit lane, you literally make that turn, that's where it starts. You pit out. That's your marker here.
They will have rehearsed this, and there's some systems in place that the teams can utilize to do this.
Close to the 81.
Close to that mark, yeah, no. 83 seconds is the closest by the leader, so they're leaving being a bit conservative. Left a good couple of seconds plus on the board there. 83.8 second stop.
Not always the worst idea at the first race of the season to make sure that you've got your sums right, because it's painful. Even if it's 100th of a second short, that's a drive-through. Coming up on the back of the number 69, that's the BGB Motorsports Group entry of Tom Collingwood. Keeping an eye on who's in and out of the pits at this stage. So now Parker Chase is in, the Rentec Mercedes.
Panos Group just executed in 82 seconds, so that's about the closest. Now we see him starting to trim it a little bit better. Flying Lizard Group get it done in 81.58, so the ante's been upped. This is more like it. You don't want to be giving more than a second away, ideally. When you start to get to the 2, 3, 10 second mark, it's like, yeah, you're cutting it close.
Well, you know how hard it is to make up 2, 3 seconds on the track. If you could do it in pit lane, which Lizards just did,
yep.
And that's doubly impressive because you know they had to do a little inspection on that car after that tap up in turn 1.
Yep.
But they're a team that have a fair pedigree in endurance racing with pit stops.
They really do. So much experience there, and Jim Bell is the lead engineer and kind of spearheads this whole GT4 program for Darren Law and the rest of the Flying Lizard Group. So lots of experience. He won Daytona 24-hour race overall with Bell Motorsports back in 2004. Guys like Andy Pilgrim and Terry Borschella, Christian Fittipaldi driving for him.
As we suspected, Kozarov has stayed out along with Andretti, but we figured Kozarov would with his speed.
Kozarov has gotten around Andretti.
Yes.
Because he was running behind. So Kozarov has taken the lead of the race. You're seeing it right there. Where is Andretti?
As he ducked in. Yes, he did. He's into pits right now. That's
okay.
Why.
There we go. Not a good pit stop. Must be a problem with the Andretti stop. The time ticking away. So yeah, that's a shame. That was a great run for that group. So hopefully they can rebound and eventually get Carl Thompson out there behind the wheel and get back at the sharp end. But they're now up to around 2 minutes on their stop. That's a disaster.
That's really a shame. Marko Radicic, after a spin and that little bit of contact up at turn 1, then the spin a little bit later. Good stop as he turns over to Carl Whitmer at a 82.8 seconds. Not too bad. Most everybody has done their stop now. Just a couple of teams.
One, of course, the leader, Kozarov.
Right.
Stavely, who now jumps up to second with everyone cycling through their pit stop routine. Stavely second, still out there on the racetrack. So obviously Kozarov and Stavely, they'll be the stronger drivers within their driver pairing, so they'll try and execute and take that right down to the wire as far as they can. Basically, if the clock hits 25 minutes to go and they're still out there, that's a problem.
Absolutely. Woods now has come in, and he will be turning over to Belomo.
Tire presses, you can bleed down the tires if they've boosted their pressure too high, so the mechanic they're going to work.
All right, 28.5 minutes left in the race, 3.5 left in the window. By the time Kozarov comes around, I think he'd be pushing it a little bit to stay out another lap, don't you, Cal? At this point, by the time he gets there?
Yeah, that would be tight. We'll have to wait and see.
Here he is. And of course, once he pits, it'll be fascinating to see once they complete that stop where Burton comes out relative to Hart.
Flashing number boards is such a great aid for the fan, Greg.
It's phenomenal. Lumarank is the company that does that, and it alternates between your overall position on the track. There you see the 001, and then it will switch over to the official 3-letter abbreviation for the driver's name. In Vesco's case, Kozarov KOZ, which is just kind of a neat nickname. Nice move there. That's where he had the problem earlier, but he was through much faster.
Here he comes.
Here he comes.
Yeah, he couldn't have
done it. Maybe.
It's going to be tight.
Yeah, for sure.
I needed a track record to get back around there and dive in, so just a little too tight for something. So Kozarov is in.
Miller has made his stop and changed over. So Stavely, who was a ways behind Kozarov, you'd think he'd have to pit this time.
The glitch here with our timing and scoring system is showing Jared Andretti's pit stop time still clicking away, but in fact Thompson is out there running in the 7th position, so it wasn't a brilliant stop because they've lost some ground, but good news is they are back on track.
And Stavely has hit pit lane as well. So that should. Interesting to see. Again, we're watching the drivers that have done their stops. There's the car that was leading early, the 47. As he comes by.
He should assume the lead again once timing and scoring cycles, I believe.
Kozarov is still in the pits. Long stop there too, Cal.
Yes. Clock is still ticking. Yeah, 95 seconds. So they're leaving time on the table certainly, and haven't seen that stop yet. So. Yeah, not a good stop. 102 seconds essentially. So.
Now they have to go through the next timing loop before that update. So it still shows now Jeff Burton, who's taken over for Kozarov, leading, but that will, of course, change.
Yeah, it should be Hart assuming the lead of this race, the Nola Sport entry. There he is.
And there is a section in the rule book that allows, with permission, for an AM-rated driver to be able to do the entire race and not have to have a co-driver. Stavely did that last year, and it's possible that he's doing that again.
Still have to come down, still have to spend the same amount of time on the pit stop. Minimum, that is.
Without a driver change, it should be fairly easy.
Easier to manage, that is for sure.
But still, that stop, if he did stay on board, which it says he's doing, still a bit of a longish stop, Cal. It's 87 seconds.
Yep. That's leaving some time on the table, and that's potentially positions as well, as tight as this field is. But great performance by the Nola Sport team. It's a healthy lead out there right now. Just need to keep hitting your marks.
And as we watch this number 47 Nola Sport car, the Andretti Autosport entry has done its stop. Ryan's with Jared.
Impressive opening stint from Jared Andretti. I know there was a little bit of contact there early on. Can you take us through what happened?
Yeah, it looks like the Audi just he got a run on me through the carousel, and then I didn't think he was going to, that's not really a passing zone, and he kind of jammed in there. I don't know. I was having to talk with him. I know Vesco, he's a good guy, so I don't think it was on purpose or anything like that. So we'll just fix the fender and kind of go on from the next one.
I know you've done some sports car racing before, but how different is this from what you're typically doing on dirt or on the short paved ovals?
Yeah, I mean, even just a TCR car, it's night and day different. But this is more, getting used to rear-wheel drive. But there's just so much electronics on some of these GT4 cars you have to get used to, traction control, the ABS, things like that. So that's definitely a learning curve. I mean, I'm used to a sprint car that's got a steering wheel, a gear lever for one gear, and then you turn the throttle switch on, and that's it. So it's just totally different. But I'm really enjoying it. I love COTA, and it's been a fun race so far.
Carl Thompson in the car right now. Of course, they had newly named McLaren factory driver Kuno Whitmer here at a test recently to help get them up to speed, and it's showing so far.
That's a good program to be able to put that all together with Kuno. Great news for him with that new factory ride, and it's all playing out. As we get back to the action here, Matt Keegan having taken over from Preston Calvert there in that 51.
Second in the AM category right now, so having another good podium run potentially on the table here today. Jared Andretti's teammate Thompson, he's now cycled through to the second position, admittedly 20 plus seconds down on this car that still leads with Jason Hart behind the wheel.
Parker Chase, that Rentec team, executed beautifully in the pit lane, and Parker now up to third.
See the acronym for the name again, HAR and 001, given the driver name and the current position on the racetrack to the fans around this race circuit. New innovation for this year with the Pirelli GT4 America class.
Okay, now coming up on Owen Trinkler has taken over the number 43 rear Audi from Sarah Cattaneo, and that's who Jason Hart is coming up on. There's the Audi, and here comes Jason.
Yeah, great to see Owen back in this paddock, and he put together a nice qualifying run for race 2 tomorrow. I think he's up in the top 6. I think he was the leading non-Porsche in that wet session this morning.
Ooh.
Very wide by our leader there. I think he just got into the ABS, and it just kind of numbs the front end of that car, and that's going to allow Carl Thompson to close a little bit on him. Carl hasn't seen any real racing action since 2014, so he's very excited about this opportunity to be with Andretti Autosport, bring some of his technical expertise and some of his staff alongside for the ride.
We're talking about just how strong this Nola Sport team is. Well, Ryan, a great opening stint by Matt Travis.
Matt Travis, a really impressive opening stint, and we were just chatting off air. You made the jump this year to the GT4 ranks, and you were saying it's just a whole lot more of everything.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. It's more car. It's super exciting. I had a great season last year in TC, and really excited about the step up this year to GT4.
How different are the track conditions here in the race relative to what you qualified in this morning?
Pretty different. There's pretty good dry line forming, as you can see from lap times, a lot of the grips there, but man, the Nola Sport crew and our engineer Scott did a great job dealing with some changes even between qualifying and now, and the car is just mega. Jason's out there having a blast, I know.
What did you tell Jason to expect when he jumped in the car?
I told him sorry for burning up the tires.
Fair enough. Hey, thank you very much. We'll let you climb back up there and enjoy the rest of the race.
Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And looking at it right now, Jason Hart's last lap, Cal, was a 2:19.7. Next closest was Trent Hinman at a 2:21.5. They have this car is clocked right now.
It really is. It's a little bit, it's about a second off his teammate's best, but nonetheless, the delta is not as big in terms of the difference.
Apparently with rooted tires.
Yeah, we suspected maybe Travis was using those tires a little bit, but even so, Hart's still got enough grip underneath him to continue to increase the lead.
It's interesting looking back in the order just a little bit. Now back in 11th, the number 19, Steve Cameron Racing BMW, Greg Leafouge just turned to 2:20.9, 2:20.8. Matt Keegan in the Panos at 2:29. Some very quick cars back in there. Robbie Foley at a 2:20.7. So there are some drivers back there with pace. They're just backwards.
Yeah, I think Foley could march his way through the order a little bit. Has a lot of pace, a lot of ability. Working with Michael Dinan this year as his coach and mentor, but Robbie Foley is a name that we've suddenly has drawn our attention over the last couple of seasons, and for very good reason. He's an amazing talent, nice young man, and seems to network well, which is half the battle in terms of a young driver getting the seats and getting the rides.
A couple of other drivers having good laps. Alec Udell turning at 2:20.8. Nate Stacy at 2:20.2. I think he's happy to be back in that Mustang.
Battle right here.
Yes, it is.
Jeff Burton and Belomo. Burton ran with the Reardon team last year. And certainly Lesko Kozlov, his co-driver, was giving him assistance and helping him with the setup on the race car. Now he's gotten literally able to compare data by driving the same car on the same weekend, which is a great aid for a gentleman driver learning the craft.
Belomo again out of that Pirelli Trophy East, which is really proven to be a great stepping stone for drivers to learn GT4 equipment. And primarily it's a lot of Porsche drivers run in that championship, and it's pretty hotly contested. We've seen many times drivers that do make the step, if they're successful in that Trophy East series, they slot right in.
Yeah, really good teams competing over there, and it's a great way with the regionalized format, which we obviously have this year with the Pirelli GT4 America Championships. The East and the West just allows people just to dip their toe in the water without having to do the travel or the time commitments to run a full national championship. But that's how you climb the ladder and plant the seeds for teams and drivers to make the bigger moves.
Good battle right here, for 5th and 6th, and then Glimpse 2 spots behind them. Frank Gannett's running in 7th in the 24 Ginetta on his own, but 8th, 9th, 10th, Gottsacker in the ST Racing, number 28, the number 3 of Mueller, the Epic BMW, and the 19 of Leafouge are having a solid little scrap.
Burton there up and over the curb there through that triple apex corner. Former baseball player, got some experience in Lamborghini Super Trofeo a couple of years ago, and then made the move to Reardon Racing with this Audi last year.
Principal of Burton Lumber. Got that racing bug.
It's dangerous.
On a lot of different levels,
yep.
You bet. And Jason Hart is just consistently ripping off 219s, Cal. Hinman now has turned to 219.2, sitting in the 4th spot in the number 77.
Yeah, he's got 7 seconds to chase down Parker, who's ahead of him. So, but running those sort of times, second a lap, there's probably enough time on the board here to get close to him. They were looking at Trent Hinman in that bright yellow vault lighting entry. Park Place running the car this year. Michael Johnson leading the charge. A lot of experience, great strategist. And
world-class strategist for sure.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys, much like a Kevin Buckler, or you can pick a few out of this paddock who just have the natural ability to make the right calls off the hip. They don't need big matrix or anything to look at. They can just know when to make the calls.
Not a problem here for the number 33. That's Adam Poland. That's the doghouse performance. Great to have that team back. A former absolute front runner in the touring car ranks. And, 20. That's the last turn.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Here.
That was bizarre.
It was. Looks like that right rear's down.
Yeah, I think the tire's down. Yeah, there you go. Didn't make a lot of sense. That was so late. You didn't really have the the load and safety car. There's going to be a reset here, and we talk about tire degradation and having something left that's going to really reset this into a tasty little battle.
Yeah, Thompson has been running in the 220s, but as I said, Chase at in the 222s, Chase in the 220s, Hinman the 219s. Yeah, this is
that Hinman Chase battle could be
here.
really good for that podium spot there.
And the safety car is out. So I would think this would be fairly quick, be able to get that car moved relatively fast. There's not a lot of time left here at 13.5 minutes.
Essentially, once the yellows come out, if you go full course yellow, there will always be a safety car. So they try to do what we call a virtual safety car. It's hard to implement because we don't have the GPS technology to monitor the cars doing exactly 80 kilometers, but that's what's told to them. Then once the safety car is out there, you're then allowed to go over that speed to be able to pack the field back together for a restart. Lots of new wrinkles in the rules for this year. We basically integrate Blancpain rules from Europe over to here in the America.
All right, and so while we are under this full course caution, we're going to hop back down to pit lane as Ryan Marine has found Alan Brynjolfsson from the Volt Lighting portion.
Yeah, I wanted to check in with Alan here. Trent's in the car right now, and he's really been on a move. Is this full course yellow exactly what you guys needed?
It's exactly what we needed. I thought I had a great start and then got hit from behind, and that pushed us to the back of the pack. We had to fight back to, I don't know, around 10th or so. And unfortunately, the lead cars really had a big lead on Trent. Even though he's making up time, it was kind of too big of a deficit to overcome unless we had a full course caution. So it's exactly what we need. We'll be right back in it, and it's going to be an exciting finish.
Now, you've driven a lot of different GT4 cars over the last couple of years. How does this Porsche Cayman, the new Cayman, compare?
I think it's a pretty easy car to drive. It's pretty consistent, very stable, so I enjoy driving it.
All right, best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's a great character. And I was just going to point out the car that had the issue, that number 33 Audi, Adam Poland. He was a touring car guy. He's taken a few years off just to continue to work on the performance shop and the like, and has come back. And the teammate he elected to bring in and run with him is the 2005 GT champion, Andy Pilgrim. So there's some experience for you.
Yes, that's some great shoulders in terms of the wisdom to lean on. Andy, just so much success. Quality guy, still can get the job done behind the wheel, but that's a great choice as a teammate for that young man.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just now they're checking, I think, to see if we just hook it up and move it, are we going to grind anything off the bottom of the car? Have to see how quick this can be moved. 11 minutes left in this race. And that's the problem with a late caution. Yeah, you want the caution, but if
want some time to work with too.
Exactly. So here comes the tow. It's a question of are they going to have to, it looks like they're going to try and put it up on the flatbed. So the field neutralized right now. Let's give you an idea of the run order, and we're going to just give some credit where credit's due here for some of the regional drivers, and it's impressive. Up front right now is, up first, let's take a look once again at what happened here.
You can just see it suddenly goes on him. It was so late in the corner, it didn't make any sense until we see that the right rear is effectively gone.
Well, they continue the load up here. So leading, as we talked about, this, the 47 NOLA Sport entry, which is a National Pro-Am car. Second is an a National AM category car with Carl Thompson and Jared Andretti. But sitting third right now, once again, it's a GTE East Pro-Am, a GT4 East Pro-Am car. The 89 Mercedes of Chase, another East Pro-Am car, and Trent Hidman next up in the order. Then a West Am car with Jeff Burton. So impressive stuff there. And we saw an early strong run by Drew Stavely and Ryan Moraine. You found him down in pit lane.
Well, wanted to check in with Drew Stavely for a couple of reasons. We'll talk about what the start of the race was like. But first, just being here is pretty remarkable in and of itself. Can you take us through your last 24, 36 hours?
Yeah, you know, worked all day yesterday. My wife's pregnant. We're due any time now, so I was kind of trying to make it the most littlest time away from her as possible, right? So worked all day yesterday. Got on a plane last night. Got here about 1 in the morning. Qualifying was the first time in my car, and it was raining, so that was interesting. Got 14th, and then had a pretty good dry race car and got up to the front.
Yeah, team owner Ian Lacey had been practicing the car, and he was ready to race just in case. But you talk about work. You're not just normal work. You're not going to an office. And you had something pretty cool going on at Utah Motorsports campus.
Yeah, we did. So I work at the Ford Performance Racing School, and actually Friday was our first Raptor Assault program. So our first program of the year, in which is my main responsibility. So I had to be there, and it was a success. Everything was good. Left there right to the airport, and here I am, ready for a nap.
I bet so. Well, what do you think about the rest of this race?
It's interesting, you know. I was just trying to get caught up with where we are, and this caution's going to mix some things up for sure. Everyone's there. There's some really good drivers in the top 15, and I think it's going to be exciting.
Sprint XAM champion last year, Drew Stavely.
Yeah, what a year he had. He's absolutely right. And the shorter amount of time from the restart to the finish generally means the more excitement we're going to see, because people, that's just everybody gets that little bit more desperate.
Yes. Yeah, it's go time.
Yeah.
And, I'm really looking forward to this Parker Chase Trent Hinman little battle that may get going here. Hopefully we can get that car off the racetrack and get back to green here pretty quickly, not make it a one-lap shootout.
Well, the interesting thing is you look back here, Cal, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th overall. You know, Foley, Whitmer, Shimshak, Wolf, Stacy, Udell, McAleer, Carter. Those are all very quick drivers.
Yes. And they've been in situations like this before, so yeah, they're going to be going for it hard. They're not going to take crazy risk. Remember, it's a doubleheader weekend. It's early in the season, and some of these teams are relatively well-funded, but others are just trying to get from race to race, so you can't afford to just throw caution to the wind and get involved in any damage to your race car. And certainly with race 2 still to come, that's very much on everyone's mind.
Well, I think that's a good point. One thing that hasn't changed with the format this year is it's still doubleheaders. So in that first race, you have to have that always just a little consideration for being able to start this thing.
Lights are out, so we're going to see green flag at the end of this lap.
Probably 3 laps by the time we go green.
Yep, you're right.
Stacking up just a little bit here. Jason Hart, Best Energy Group NOLA Sport Porsche.
A couple of cars buffer him from the second place runner in the race right now, Carl Thompson. He's the 4th car in line, that blue-white, predominantly liveried car, the Andretti Autosport McLaren sitting there, 4th car in line.
Another car between he and Parker.
Red and black Mercedes is Parker Chase, and he's got Trent Hinman glued to his rear bumper. He is going to be ready to go. But lap cars in between them.
Here we go, onto the front straight. Safety car is pulled off, and we are back to green. And let's see what that's Owen Trinkler now. That is right behind Hart, and Owen is fast. Interesting to see what Hart tries to do in terms of any aggressive defense. Here comes Parker way down to the inside.
Yeah, just trying to clear some of that traffic. There's Carl Thompson running a little bit wide in the McLaren. Parker can't get him. Look at Trent Hinman, that bright yellow car, looking at the inside of Parker Chase.
Parker had floated a little bit of speed there and ran a little wide, not too bad, was able to hang on to it. That car right behind Parker had a big wiggle. That's the 32 of Andrew Davis, and he had a wiggle on that, and that, I think, is what had Parker running wide. Now Trent Hinman trying to get down underneath on Davis.
Yeah, Davis has a lot of experience and a lot of pace, but probably would be wise to make way for Trent Hinman because he is a man on the move right now, a man on the attack, whereas Andrew is a lap down.
And you're hoping that the team gets a hold of Andrew and lets him know that, because Andrew's a gentleman, and there he does. He opens the wheel up, lets Trent through.
Yeah, he'll live to fight a better day, and he'll remember that favor Trent Hinman well by Andrew Davis there.
Watching these other cars in these battles here. The number 21, the white Lizard Porsche, it's got damage on it, but it's still quick, a Foley.
There's our leader down in the brake zone. The fourth car coming into view, that one right there. McLaren of Carl Thompson is still running in the second position. Parker Chase third, and that bright yellow Volt Racing Porsche Cayman is fourth, and has cleared that traffic as we saw.
That's Derek DeBoer right in front. Carl Thompson, and Derek's down a lap. I hope that is behind him is an angry bunch. Oh, and look at the move by Hinman, trying to force the issue on Parker. He's there. He's down to the inside a touch.
I was looking forward to this. I knew this battle was going to be tasty between these two young drivers. Neither one wants to give an inch, but just gives an inch in terms of racing room.
And now DeBoer gets moved offline a little bit, and he lets them all through. 3 abreast between 19 and the final corner 20, and it's still Parker, though, to the inside.
This is just awesome racing. Trent has to use a little bit of out of bounds there. That will be looked at.
Yes.
He's opened up his hands, but he's able to maintain the position by doing so. So that may get him a warning, but he may be able to keep it for now as Parker now looks to the inside of the Mercedes. Can he take the position back? Yes, he does. Washes out wide and takes the line and takes the position.
You wonder if the team may have radioed Trent and said that he may be forced to give it back, do it, and then attack.
Well, you don't want to give it back too late, otherwise there's no time on the board. So if you recognize we might get a penalty for that, give it back and now go race him again.
And these two are right with Thompson now after having cleared that traffic. Parker now closing on Carl Thompson. This is for second overall.
Look at Carl Thompson, he's in the dirt there. But I think these guys behind him may have a little bit more pace at this stage of the game, and they're running for different championships, so Carl may elect to let them go.
That's true. Thompson
look at Hinman to the inside. Big protection there by Parker Chase. Trent Hinman swings out wide. Chase to the inside, takes the position away from Thompson. What can Hinman do with that exit speed?
He's going to look to the inside now, maybe, as Carl Thompson. Look at that run. He got out of 11 incredibly quickly and just motored by Chase.
That McLaren's got some good straightaway speed, and that's allowed Hinman now to be in the draft to Parker Chase. All three of these cars going to meet at apex. That's the problem. Chase to the inside once again. Hinman takes that wide line. Can he do the undercut on Thompson? He'll probably run the outer cushion here. Thompson looks to the inside. Hinman swings it out wide. He gets it. Now he looks to the inside, trying to do a double move on Parker.
Look
what
at
a
that.
move by Trent Hinman.
Don't know if it'll stick, but it was pretty.
Parker's going to wash him out there. Nowhere to go with that one.
Some serious needle threading by Trent Hinman.
Well, Thompson's got the prime seat there in the house. Looking at this right now.
This triple apex right. Carry a lot of speed down through this part of the track, but into 19 is really tough. He's thinking about it.
A lap and a half to go. They're not going to see the checkered flag, but they will see it next time.
Oh, he carried some speed even though he didn't use the whole track, Cal.
Just needs to slow it down right there. Just maintain it, now go. Nice move by Trent Hinman. Perfect.
And here comes Carl Thompson. That McLaren gets off the corners extremely well.
Thompson taking it in deep. Chase to the outside, swings it out wide. Keeps that big radius, keeps the speed on top of it.
That little bit has allowed Hinman to get 4 or 5 car lengths Behind them, it's still the 91 of Burton with the Reardon Audi sitting in the 5th spot. Matt Keegan has marched his way to the top and brought, look at that, Alec Udell was almost outside of the top 20 when we went green. Kelly's 7th.
Yeah, an amazing run as we'd expect. Great to see Alec Udell back in our paddock racing once again. Just a man who's just really impressed over the last couple of seasons. Let's see how this one evolves once again. This was just great racing here.
Fabulous.
And you can see Parker washes him out wide. Trent says, no problem, I just opened up my hands and keep the power down, maintained the position there, but then gave it up a little bit later in the lap, but then fought back again. And that's for a position within their class, Greg. They're both running for the GT4 East Pro-Am Championship, so wasn't just for a position overall, that was for a battle in class.
Yeah, absolutely. Now time has expired, so this is it, and there is Jason Hart in that NOLA Sport Best Energy Group Porsche. Started on pole, and other than a few minutes in the pits during the exchanges, been at the top of this race from the get-go.
And a winning color today, bright yellow.
Doesn't it? When it went green, he was able to just check out once again. Hinman now would be second, Chase third. For NOLA Sport, all the speed we saw from them in qualifying in vastly different conditions apparently translated well to a dry racetrack.
Yeah, it's a great performance. When you've got a race car and drivers who can do it in different sessions, different track conditions, and bring it home.
Onto the front straight, here he comes. Hart brings NOLA Sport to the checkers and the win. And a win for the Porsche. Came in 7:18. Behind him, Hinman, Chase, Thompson continuing their great battle. The margin's really close at the line. Hinman finishing behind Hart, but Chase only 0.38 of a second off of Hinman. And then Thompson right there. Burton hanging on to a 5th. It's a great run. And for Alec Udell, those last few laps hauling that number 2 GMG Audi up from deep in the top 20 to 6th, bringing Keegan, Stacy, Foley back there, Leia Fouge with him. That was some absolutely brilliant racing.
It was fantastic racing, running low, 2-minute 19 laps as well to get there. So that's a great performance by young Alec.
Yep. And Jason Bell, of course, starting. That's the Highway Systems Grid Sport car fielded by GMG. So great job there. And boy, these guys put on a show, didn't they?
Yeah, I was hoping we'd see more than just a one-lap shootout, and they needed it to sort it out. So that was cool. Just good, hard racing. Very cool.
And it does give one pause just a little bit when you think about it. You know, with Udell, that run that he had, they had a 97-second pit stop. If they'd been close to the 82, 83, 84 second mark, who knows? You know, I mean, that's why these stops are so critical. The issue is, I'm sure some cars are a little bit more difficult to get in and out of than others. That can cost you a little bit of time on the exchange.
It's early in the season, and new driver pairings. It takes a while to get into your rhythm, and you may practice it during one of the sessions, but suddenly in the race when the adrenaline's pumping, it's so easy to get it wrong.
Nice job, as we've talked about, for this NOLA Sport team. 32 of Andrew Davis. And this is one of, you know, I mean, love all of the drivers, all of the competition. But the second race of the doubleheader weekend, when in theory all the fast guys start, it produces some absolutely fabulous racing. And then you find out of the second drivers, technically the lower rated drivers. It's really an opportunity for them when these fast drivers put on a great show to come out and bring it home and really showcase what they can do. And that's all what makes this Pirelli GT4 American Championship so fascinating, is the doubleheader format and the flip-flopping, starting and finishing drivers. These two guys must have been grinning ear to ear, along with Carl Thompson in those last couple of laps.
Yes. Parker, Chase, Trent Hinman, you're going to hear a lot about those young men in our sport for decades to come.
I would think so.
Our bright stars.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe guys named Hart and Travis, too. That's impressive stuff what they put on today. Pole the checkers. It's unfortunate, too, for the early problems, the contact and the spin for the number 22 of Marco Radicic, because they had qualified 7th. And Marco was showing great speed, and we know Carl Whitmer's fast. And if not for those problems, that car could have been right up in the mix as well. So, and that's the as you would say, tasty part of this whole deal, is we get to see it again tomorrow.
Don't have to wait long.
No. Love it. What a job this duo did. What a job NOLA Sport did. And there's Travis over the wall giving Jason a big hug. Here's the team. Very well deserved. What a run they put in today. Look at this. Still hazy, misty, foggy. But when you got that visor snapped down and you're at it in the car, it doesn't matter, does it?
No, it's a toasty spot to be.
And here's a look at the provisional race 1 results here for what is going to be a very, I think, entertaining season. And part of the issue is certainly we have some teams that'll be addressing pit stops, but one team that seemed to nail it pretty well, Ryan, your winners.
Couple of Texans in this driver lineup, winning on home soil. I got to wonder, though, Jason, what went through your mind when that full course yellow came out after you had built such a big lead?
It's never a good feeling to have a decent lead and have it zapped by yellow. And this team, these people that I'm so blessed to be surrounded by, we just went to work. As soon as that yellow came out, it's like, all right, let's go through our checks, let's go through our balances, let's make sure we hit all of our marks. We'll go through our restart protocol. They reminded me of all my cues. I did what I needed to do as a driver in the car, from cleaning tires and being prepared to adjust brake zones on the first input and then accelerate through the next. This team just doesn't miss a line item. Everything is so buttoned up. We don't have all the resources in the world, but we have fantastic people. I am so blessed and so happy to be right where I am today, and so thankful of Matt Travis and Mike Vess, who in my career, as well as a gentleman named Ron Farmer, who has retired years ago, have been so inspirational, so supportive of me, and I'm so thankful for them, and just so blessed to be racing in the SRO GT4 series for the full season with Matt. It's the first time I've had a run for a championship since 2012. It's been a while, so I am just pumped for 2019. And this new Porsche, what a fantastic car, the 718 GT4, just a killer rig. They've been killing it on BOP all weekend, and our engineer and our team just find the way around it to get that balance back, and drivers just do what they do.
Great start to the year. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, he's amped, and rightfully so, with a performance like that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Here are the provisional results, as we said, and it's going to be fun to watch this when that starts tomorrow again with the second round of the championship, and just see how it all flows up. But one thing I think we have seen pretty fair evidence of is it's going to be a fun season.
It is, yeah. Lots of manufacturers showing great pace here today in the opening round of the championships. Some new, interesting driver combinations, people we don't know a lot about. Some of the experienced hands certainly showing and demonstrating their talents as well. So it's always an interesting formula, GT4, and particularly with this format with the 2 driver lineups and stuff. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to be great to watch it unfold as the season continues, and it'll be interesting to see what we're going to have for some weather for the next day. But right now, let's get back down to Ryan with our AM class winner.
Carl Thompson, amazing start to this partnership with Andretti Autosport. Congratulations on the class win. You had quite a seat there at the end. You were trying to take care of your own race, but you had a big race battling right in front of you.
Well, I mean, first of all, I got to say thanks so much to the Andretti Autosport guys. Jarrett did an absolutely incredible first stint for his first time in this car. Dude's an incredible talent. Big thanks to John, his dad. I actually had a moment yesterday when we're on the radio, and I am thinking, wait a second, my spotter is John Andretti. So super amazing. Great job by all the guys. All the guys are working really well together. We had a great race. Honestly, I know all these guys, and I want to race with them. So I see him coming, and we know that he's quick, but you got to make him work for it a little bit. But again, thanks so much to Jarrett and John and all the guys back in Indianapolis. Incredible job.
Congratulations. Hey, Jarrett, let's have you come in. How significant is it to you to start this partnership off with a race win?
No, it's really important, and we kind of put this deal together. Started working on it Labor Day last year, and it's good to have McLaren here in the Sprint X side and kind of flying the flag high as much as we can. And this kind of deal came together last minute. Me and Robin and Amy have been working extremely long hours, along with my father back in North Carolina. We talk all the time, and it's been a lot of long days. So just to come here and to perform and have a shot at a podium, at least on the overall scale, and also an AM win is really positive and bodes well for tomorrow.
Remarkable start to the season. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, that was great. Great driving. I think Carl was, he was racing those guys hard, but as you said, Cal, he's also pretty smart. He's aware it's a different class, and I'm not, I'm not going for any overall here. I'm going for my class win points, and he played that well. He was aggressive, but not overly so.
Well, I think being a team owner like he's been over the last few years since he's kind of given up on the driving has allowed him to be a great multitasker, and I think he had to multitask the various scenarios that were sort of like being formed around him.
And again, having another look at the results, I want to get through the top 15 here, but there's twice as many cars in the field as 15. Wanted to get back and show you everybody here. And do keep in mind, there's the Pro-Am, the Am, but there's the East and the West with their championships as well. And what really impressed me is when you take a look at where some of the regional Am category teams finished in this one, it really bodes well for, I think, any time the regional series join the national championship, they're going to be up at the sharp end and a serious part of it.
Absolutely, is a great pace in every class and every championship. So when you bring them all together, that just intensifies the competition.
You take there, as you're looking at it, you can see now the teams being reflected, the team names and the like, and then we'll go back and show you the drivers for the rest of the field here. And there are some just dynamite drives throughout, and of course there were some problems later in the race where a few teams and drivers getting caught out. The one thing that I think is going to be fascinating to watch when we get to round 2 tomorrow, Cal, is the teams that really struggled with the pit stops in terms of the time, what they can do between now and then to be able to make the adjustment to trim those times down and get them more in that 81-second plus 1 or 2 window.
Yes, some of it could have just simply been the execution of the driver change. Some of it could have been just a miscalculation in terms of how long you want your car sitting there. Some of these teams do employ an onboard sort of data sensor that will tell you when to go, and if you're underneath the target time, if you're over it, if you can, basically make any adjustment on your way down to pit out. But nonetheless, as early days, you're going to be a bit conservative, but leaving multiple seconds on the board is not the way to execute and potentially win.
Now, as we've said before, when it's so hard to make up a second on the track, to leave 5 in the pits is difficult, and everybody will be working that out here as the race comes to a conclusion and they start prepping for tomorrow. That will be rather significantly on their minds, I would think. So, round 1 of the Pirelli GT4 America Championship is in the books. Let's go back and take a quick look at some of the highlights that unfolded in that first race. Of course, at the start, when it goes green, everybody just makes the big move. And one of them was Vesco Kozarov in that black Audi on the right of the screen. Went to the inside aggressively, and Jared Andretti trying to sweep the outside as well. Then the bits of contact.
Yeah, unfortunately, a little contact there. Got Brynjolfsson turned around. See the Flying Lizard entry involved as well as Michael Dynan.
Then this moment as Vesco Kozarov, a little aggressive, and just tapped and got out of the throttle, trying not to turn Jared Andretti. He went around, wicked quick recovery, and he was going to come back and be a factor in the race. And then for Matt Fosnot, that lockup really seemed to change the ability of that McLaren or Mercedes getting power down.
It did, just faded a little bit after that moment. There's another great drive by Fosnot. Definitely going to be a factor in this championship this year.
And then right here, bit of a moment for the 33, the Doghouse Performance Audi, when as he was under braking for the last turn, it looked like probably something cut that tire, and down it went. That brought out a full course caution, and when we went green, it was on for 3 laps of absolutely exciting racing.
It was fantastic between Parker Chase and Trent Hinman, 2 young men who are really making a name for themselves in our sport. Side-by-side action. Eventually, it went the way of Trent Hinman, but no stopping this guy today.
Nope. The NOLA Sport team controlled it start to finish, and Matt Travis and Jason Hart start the season off with an overall win.